So I think a lot of people start climbing in the gym, and climbing outside or bouldering outside can seem like a really tricky task to maybe be prepared for. So I thought I'd make this video just to go over my top 5 tips for bouldering outside. So tip number 1 is to check the weather, because it really has an impact on your experience for climbing. Whether it's too hot or too cold can really change your percentage of actually sending the climb that you're working on. And definitely the most obvious is if it's raining, you don't want to go climbing because it's just going to be too wet and you're going to slip off of everything. Depending, I guess some climbs could have a nice cave or something that you could sort of work around in, but for the most part, it's just nicer to go when it's decent weather outside. So tip number 2 is the mental side of climbing, and I think that kind of means a bunch of things. So when I talk about the mental side of climbing, I'm also talking about top outs and mantling and making sure you have enough pads and people to spot you. Also, just being outside makes it feel a little different than when you're in the gym, where you have like tons of different pads and you just feel very safe. So when you're climbing outside, you might have little boulders on the floor or really sketchy fall zones. So you just want to be prepared and keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. Also, another thing to consider in terms of the mental side is not to be discouraged or demoralized by some of the grades of the climbs. A V2 could feel like a V4 or even a 5 in the gym sometimes, really depending on what your style is, and also, I guess, what the conditions are as well. So tip number 3 is to have a guide, and that could mean anything from checking YouTube for videos of the area so that you don't get lost, or bringing a friend with you that actually knows the area pretty well, which can be super valuable because they can just give you information about beta for different climbs, or something even really minor like if that hold is off or on the climb, or where your hands are supposed to start. For the most part, you could probably figure a lot of this stuff out, but when you have a guide or a friend that's with you, it can really make a big difference, and you could get a lot more climbing done as opposed to maybe a lot more figuring out and puzzling. Besides using YouTube, I really like to use RackUp, especially if I'm going to the Powerlinez, but it depends where you're going to climb, so definitely try to find a guidebook for your local area if you can. Tip number 4 is to pack light. I personally found that a lot of the climbs that you're going to go walking to require a little bit of a hike, and a lot of the time it's uphill, so you don't want to bring anything too excessive. So here's what I usually like to bring when I'm going climbing. Tip number 5 is to respect the area, and that not only means not leaving trash everywhere you go, but to actually brush off any of the chalk marks that you put on the climbs, just to make sure that the holds still are textured after a while. You don't want them to just get really glassy over time. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helps you guys feel a little bit more prepared to take that trip outdoors to go climbing. And definitely leave a comment if you know a tip that I may have missed. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you in the next video.